I didn't feel like I was confident enough to take on that responsibility at that point of time in my life. So I questioned him and I asked him, why me? Because there are so many senior members on the team that he could entrust this responsibility with, right? So, and what he said to me was quite interesting, and it stuck with me, because what he said was that, I'm never going to ask you, or I'm never going to question what you can do or you cannot do. You have to tell me whether you are up for this job, right? I know you're a new mom, but I'm not going to tell you whether you are ready for this right now. You have to judge it and you have to let me know. And that kind of left a very strong impression on me, because I felt like, he's giving me a fair chance, irrespective of what stage of life I am at. And you should never take no for an answer, right? Whether it's about your salary negotiation, your promotion negotiation, you want to take on more responsibilities, never take no for an answer, right? Just power through, have a strong conviction about yourself and just power through, right? I have that assertiveness, should I say aggressiveness, but very proudly. Like when younger women in their early careers approach me for like mentorship advice, I often find them like wasting a lot of time, like worrying about, what people are thinking about them. Are they being judged? If I talk about my accomplishments, will people feel like I'm being too cheeky? Or if I want to talk about my salary, will people find that I'm being selfish? I was just this new person, uh, trying to network, trying to strike conversations with people. So I approached this person, who was sitting by himself at a table, and I asked him, "So, what is it that you do at Avanade?" And he said he manages XYZ. And I don't want to take the name, right? But like he gave me a very short answer, and he just continued to stare at his phone, right? And so I kind of felt like he's blocking me. But then I persisted. I asked him again, right? Like, so what does your division do exactly? Right. And then he just looked up at me and he said, "It's complicated," as if like, I won't understand. Right. And like at that point of time, if it was somebody else, they would have just walked away. Right. But I continued to talk about what I do, the pay parity between men and women. I always feel like, to some extent, we women are at fault. I mean, we women have to be blamed for it, because we kind of shy away from speaking our mind, from negotiating strongly about ourselves, because we feel like we will be judged, and we fear about backlash, right? But that shouldn't be the case. If you know your self-worth, and you would be nobody else can advocate more for you than you yourself, right? It's very important, especially as a woman, to not just work hard, but to also work smart. And so basically, I never was afraid to approach the right product owner or the right project owner, that, hey, you know what, I am interested in this opportunity, and I think you need to give me a fair chance.
Welcome to this podcast, where you're going to learn the strategies, the tactics, and also gain the confidence to speak your mind unapologetically at work and in your career, so that you can get ahead faster, you can have more impact, be a better leader, and be respected as yourself authentically. And I'll be your host, Ivna Curry. I'm the CEO and founder of AssertiveWay.com, INSEAD MBA, and a Forbes contributor. Now let's get started. Hello, Vishwaa. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining our podcast episode.
Doing awesome, Ivna. How are you doing?
I am great, thank you. And as a woman who is a senior director of engineering, I think you're going to have so many great stories to share with our audience today. And I'm excited to hear more about them. Could you please initially just share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. This is Vishwaa Vaidya. I am an Indian immigrant here in the US for the last 15 years. I did my master's in Illinois, worked there for a few years, and then I moved to California after I got married. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of multiple Fortune 500 companies, currently working as the Senior Director of Engineering at Visa, managing the digital and mobile payments division. We essentially manage anything end-to-end related to Visa card-based payments on digital platforms like Amazon, eBay, Netflix. So it's a very interesting opportunity.
Yeah, it seems like you enjoy what you do very much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a challenging role, quite innovative because Visa is in the forefront of everything fintech. So it's a very interesting time to be in the fintech space right now.
Yeah, and it's a great business model as well, and so it's good to be involved in that. And what were some of your most defining conversations that you feel like led to some of your breakthroughs at work?
So at Visa, my manager offered me a senior executive role here, and he offered me at a very interesting time. I would say at a time where I was the most vulnerable, actually, because I was a new mom and I was just returning back to workforce. So I wasn't really prepared to take on any additional responsibilities. But he entrusted me with a role which required me to build teams not just out of our city, but also Atlanta, Austin, Bangalore. So definitely needed a lot of travel, a lot of coordination, and things like that. And apart from that, my roles and responsibilities also included not just focusing on the core engineering team, but also including other areas like project management, product management, business analysts, and things like that. So it was a huge opportunity. And I didn't feel like I was confident enough to take on that responsibility at that point of time in my life. So I questioned him and I asked him why me, because there are so many senior members on the team that he could entrust this responsibility with, right? So, and what he said to me was quite interesting, and it stuck with me because what he said was that, I'm never going to ask you, or I'm never going to question what you can do or you cannot do. You have to tell me whether you are up for this job, right? I know you're a new mom, but I'm not going to tell you whether you are ready for this right now. You have to judge it and you have to let me know. And that kind of left a very strong impression on me because I felt like, he's giving me a fair chance, irrespective of what stage of life I am at. And that was the game on moment for me. And I was like, I have to prove myself. So I have had many such conversations in the past. Like when I used to work at Avanade, there was this woman leader called Pam Maynard. She was like several layers above me. She was a VP then. But I had this very interesting conversation with her. And one thing that I took out of it was that, like you should never take no for an answer, right? Whether it's about your salary negotiation, your promotion negotiation, you want to take on more responsibilities, never take no for an answer, right? Just power through, have a strong conviction about yourself and just power through, right? And never try to find solutions or compromise on what you truly deserve. And that also was like one of those like striking conversations which were career changing for me. And Pam Maynard, I think she's one of the ladies that I have learned the most in my career, and she's a CEO of Avanade now. And I would say she truly deserves that spot, right? Like she's a shining example, and someone I follow even now, even if I'm not associated with Avanade, right? So many such things happen, and it's not just the conversations that have shaped me. I think I was born this way. I have that assertiveness, should I say aggressiveness, but very proudly, right? I have always been like this. I have never feared I've never had the fear about speaking my mind out, right? I truly believe in like just being my confident self, right? So many a times my family actually calls me like, high octane, high energy, very aggressive, but, I take it all as a compliment because I feel like, nobody else can be a stronger advocate for me than myself, right? So I truly believe in like whether it's my personal life or professional life, just speak your mind, and just be yourself, right? Never hold back and never judge your competence. That's something I have always truly believed in. So I can give you one interesting example or like one interesting story that happened to me. So this was like probably around the pandemic era. So I was just trying to see what I can do because I had so much time on my hand. So I went to Home Depot and I was actually looking into doing some like interesting home projects and like the serious ones, right? Like remodeling my kitchen and things like that, the big man jobs. So I was in the lumber section and like I was looking through stuff. And one of these workers walk by and he says like, "Hey, excuse me, are you with your husband?" And I said no, and I just continued doing what I was doing. But that question kind of got the best out of me, right? Like, and I was very curious. So I turned around and I asked him, "Why do you ask?" Right? So he says, "No, I'm just like, I wanted to just discuss about. We have these amazing promotions going on for solar panels installation, right?" And he pointed to the pamphlets that he was carrying in his hand, and I was like, "Okay, and don't you sell them to women?" So, and he was like, "Oh, are you interested?" And from his look, it just showed, like, like how much stereotype we carry in the society, right? And he was like, "Oh, are you interested?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." But right, that even women carry paychecks with them, and like the credit cards with them. So even they can pay. So it's not like your audience is only the men, right? So I feel like, there's a lot of bias in general in the society about, like women should be typical. The typical women stereotype is that women should be likable, agreeable, supportive, as opposed to like a woman who is more assertive, more confident, more competent. She is sometimes called, like, as conceited, and people don't like her as much, right? But I have learned it the hard way. You cannot waste your life thinking about or worrying much about what people think about you, right? And along the way in my career journey, I have met these awesome mentors who have actually, um, told me, you are doing awesome and you don't have to change yourself. Just be confident enough to speak what you truly believe in. Your opinions matter, right? It doesn't matter what the other person thinks about it. And I think I think it's probably Dr. Seuss who said one time that, those who matter don't mind, and then those who mind don't really matter. So that's the philosophy I go by. I truly believe, like, just be yourself. If people don't like it, that's their problem, not my problem. But I will have a strong conviction in what I say, and I will not hold back on my opinions, right? And so, like, when younger women in their early careers approach me for like mentorship advice, I often find them like wasting a lot of time, like worrying about, what people are thinking about them. Are they being judged? If I talk about my accomplishments, will people feel like I'm being too cheeky? Or if I want to talk about my salary, will people find that I'm being selfish? And I just tell them, hey, you know what? If you truly believe you deserve a pay hike, go speak about it. Don't worry about it. Just be yourself. And that's super important. Whether it's your personal life or your professional life, if you believe in something, yeah.
Yeah, you share so many great stories, and I love it that you've embraced since a young age, and especially at the beginning of your career as well, just being assertive and being yourself, and fully expressing yourself and speaking up. I'd be curious to know if you've ever experienced backlash, because that's a big concern that a lot of women have. If they speak up, there's going to be some sort of backlash or retaliation or something like that.
Not directly, or even if I did face some backlash, I've just chose to ignore it. And I have continued to pave my way or toe my line. So there was this one conversation, or like one of these conferences that I attended back in Avanade days, and it was a room full of male executives, and I was just this new person trying to network, trying to strike conversations with people. So I approached this person who was sitting by himself at a table, and I asked him, "So what is it that you do at Avanade?" And he said he manages XYZ. And I don't want to take the name, right? But like he gave me a very short answer, and he just continued to stare at his phone, right? And so I kind of felt like he's blocking me. But then I persisted. I asked him again, right? Like, so what does your division do exactly? Right. And then he just looked up at me and he said, "It's complicated," as if like, I won't understand, right? And like at that point of time, if it was somebody else, they would have just walked away, right? But I continued to talk about what I do, right? Oh, and by the way, I'm so and so, and I'm at Abnard. I essentially manage this division, and this is what I'm going to be doing. And then like at some point that person just gave in, okay, this lady possessed, right? And so then like he initially he pretended like he's just or he probably was faking interest, and then like it at some point during the conversation he himself would have realized, okay, this is a genuine person, who is a competent person, and that's the reason why she's here right now, right? And she deserves the attention that I would have given to a male counterpart. And that's when he started opening up, and like then he said, hey, I apologize, I was probably not in the right, I probably my initial response didn't come out right. And then he kind of elaborated what he does, and then he in fact even invited me for like a team lunch, just to introduce me to his team and things like that. So then things went well. But just to answer your question, I have had such moments, but I kind of treat these hurdles as my way to just continue to do what I'm doing and continue to break the ceiling, right? Yeah.
It's the never take no for an answer.
Oh, yeah,
Example.
absolutely. Yes. So I think I mean the leaning in thing kind of became a trend sometime just few years back. But being an Indian immigrant coming from a middle class family, this is one thing that my parents taught me right from day one. It's the fight for the fit, like only this. I mean, the survival is only with the someone who is the fittest, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're a female or a male. If you know you have it in you, just do it, right? Like I think I learned those lessons from my parents. And one more interesting point to talk about, like we talk about this gender based pay parity, right? Like the pay parity between men and women. I always feel like, to some extent, we women are at fault. I mean, we women have to be blamed for it, because we kind of shy away from speaking our mind, from negotiating strongly about ourselves, because we feel like we will be judged, and we fear about backlash, right? But that shouldn't be the case. If you know your self-worth, and you would be nobody else can advocate more for you than you yourself, right? So you need to have put your foot down and just be firm about what you want, right? Once you know this is the salary that you should command given your competency, that is it. Like it doesn't matter what your manager, what your boss would think about you. So have that approach in your life. Just don't be afraid to be yourself.
Yeah, now what I'm hearing from you is, even though there might be backlash, you're so much better off just going ahead and speaking up. You're gonna get so much more out of speaking up. And even if backlash happens, you can still push back like you did in your example, and still turn it around and prove them wrong around their initial perception.
Yes, it's very important to be respectful even at that moment. That's what I follow. Like when I experience backlash, other women would probably walk away, or they would complain, or like I don't know what the approach would be, but I persist. But at the same time, I'm respectable, right? In my conversation with them. And I truly try to just come across as someone who's genuine, someone who knows what she's doing, and someone who refuses to be put down, right? Just because I am a female, right? And I think that has paid me along my career journey for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you shared how you, when you had your first child and everything, you embraced this big role that happened, and your boss referred you to it and asked you to take it on. And probably you've already proven yourself so many times that he thought you would be a good person for that role. And he asked you if you were open for it. What about other parts in your career, in other moments of moving up? How did that happen for you? Like what do you think were the things that maybe you did, or that allowed you to quickly move up the corporate ladder? Does your company champion women? Maybe that's a women's network, a women's club, a women's initiative. Well, my friend, if it does, I'd absolutely love to be able to add value to that cause, be it with a talk, an interactive activity, or even a workshop. We can cover things like how to be an assertive woman in the workplace without coming across as aggressive, breakthrough conversations for breakthrough careers for professional women, and all sorts of other empowering topics. if you know of any such clubs in your company or your team, please contact me at info@assertiveway.com, and we can then talk more about how I can support the women in your company, in your department, in your team.
I spent most part of my career in Avanade, and I think my career has been primarily shaped based out of my experience in Avanade. So I started as an individual contributor there, and then through my projects, through my work, I demonstrated or I showcased that I can take on more leadership opportunities, and that's how I grew rank and file over there. So at Avanade, I never shied away from taking on projects. And so I actually gained a lot of depth and breadth of experience in Avanade. So I was fortunate enough to work on multiple industry verticals. So to give a context, Avanade is essentially the consulting wing of Microsoft, and they partner with Accenture to implement like amazing innovative projects, Microsoft-based projects for different Fortune 500 clients. So I worked on some amazing multi-million-dollar projects. I led them right from the front. So, for example, the Chevron loyalty program project, where say if you have a rewards card with Safeway, the grocery chain, you can go to a Chevron gas station and you can essentially redeem some discount on the gas price. And it's a universally used application right now. Wherever you have a Chevron Safeway location, they usually have a tie-up where you would get a discount on the gas price, right? So basically, I was involved right from the day one. That project, and the Boston Scientific project, the Digital Globe project, which is actually a satellite manufacturing company based out of Colorado. We implemented a revenue management model for them. So some amazing projects across different industry verticals. And so as you can imagine, each of these companies had different needs, and hence there was a need for using different technology stacks, right? And so even if those technologies were new to me, I never shied away from those projects. So when the projects would start, I would walk into a room full of other engineers who are already great at what they're doing in that technology stack. But that didn't shy me away from taking on that role. And, like I took it on me to quickly learn, right? And one thing I feel is that it's very important, especially as a woman, to not just work hard, but to also work smart. So I had the smarts, if I may call it, to pick on the technology the right way, or to learn something new, the programming language, fairly quickly. And by the end of the project, I pride myself in saying the fact that many a times my coding style or the way I did things were actually considered as best practices or like benchmarks for other engineers to follow. So bottom line, what I want to highlight is that it's very important to take risk, right? And then also, once you take the risk, be in it, be involved in it fully, work hard, work smart.
Okay, so I'm actually really curious. You mentioned, taking risks and not shying away from these big opportunities and these big projects and leading some of these big projects. How did you actually get into these big projects?
So that's the thing. So, for at Avanade, they usually have these monthly project review meetings where it's more like a front door exercise where they would talk about what opportunities are coming in the pipeline. And usually the preference is given to the engineers or the members who have already proven to have like similar experience. Say, for example, if there's a project with Walmart, if somebody has worked with another similar retailer, those guys will be given preference and things like that, right? So they try to pair like the engineers or the directors or the leaders who already have some similar experience working on a similar project in the past, right? But if I found an opportunity through the pipeline conversations, I would just go and approach, right? And I would just say, hey, I am interested in this project. And I know I don't have the necessary skill sets, right? I don't have the experience working in this particular industry, but I have proven myself to be a fast learner. And these are the projects, and they speak for themselves in terms of the success I've been able to contribute to, right? And so basically, I never was afraid to approach the right product owner or the right project owner that, hey, you know what, I am interested in this opportunity, and I think you need to give me a fair chance.
Okay, that's a big difference there. So not only did you take the risk and accepted what came your way, but you went after what you wanted, and you went after big projects that you knew could give you that opportunity, that exposure, and that big growth.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And at the same time, you talked about how great your great results from previous projects, and that obviously helped you in your case.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What are some of the boldest requests that you've made in your career?
Mm-hmm. So Visa has a limited maternity leave policy, and with the pandemic era and my baby being so small, when they reopened their offices, I wasn't though I wanted to go back, be with my team, right? Or at least go for the hybrid model. I was at the same time worried about, if I would carry something back to my baby being unvaccinated, right? So I requested them to allow me to work from home for an extended period of time. I have never done that in the past, right? In fact, like if if this was not the case, I would have been one of the first people to go back to work for all the 5 days a week, right? Because I believe in like in-person communication. But I think that is one of the things, and they truly believed, like this person, in spite of the additional roles and responsibilities, she wants to work remotely for extended period of time. And my boss believed in me, right? Like, and he was like, okay, I know I'm giving you additional responsibilities, but I know you want to work from home, and I don't know how someone else sitting from their home will be able to establish an office in Austin, in Bangalore, in Atlanta, but I have full faith in your capabilities. I know you can do it. So I stayed back home for additional 3 months, right? And then, like when numbers came in and things like that, when things started getting better, I was like, okay, I can go back to work now.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is a bold request. And it seems like it worked out, and it seems like you already had a good relationship with your boss, and you're able to already prove yourself many times, so that when you actually had a big request, it was almost a no-brainer for him to say yes to it.
Yeah. So it all is, I would say the data never lies, right? So like if there is data to back what you're saying, like, hey, even if I work from home, you can rest assured that, I've been excellent in managing my projects before, and this is the success rate, and we haven't had a production incident in a long time. So I can continue to do the same thing, right? So if I have something to back what I'm saying, my saying gets easier, and it's very easy for me to convince the other person, right?
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier in our conversation that you always spoke up, and sometimes people would make comments that you were aggressive, and you're like, I'm fine. That's who I am. I take that as a compliment. Yes. I thought that was really interesting. Has anybody at work ever called you aggressive or difficult or anything like that, or not really?
So at work, this is what I do typically, right? I love to be surrounded by or build a team of people who are like me in terms of, you want to challenge someone, don't be afraid to challenge that person. If you think you have an opinion that matters in terms of how the project should be directed, no matter what career level you are at, you should have a say. So it's a very open door policy that I follow, right? So that's how I typically lead my organization. But then there are other organizations who don't follow a similar model, right? And so kind of like I sometimes get the feedback in terms of my the 360, right? Like when my team members have a joint project with the other team members, and they are speaking their mind and they are questioning them, and they appear to be like combative, right? There is a somewhat of a backlash. It's like, it's a culture in their team, like anyone speaks what they want to speak, right? And that's what I hear. But you know what, I take it as a compliment. And many a times I feel like it's better for my team members to ask questions, my team members to challenge each other, and resolve conflicts like early on, like fix issues early on, rather than like waiting all the way till production and then having a major production incident, right? So I always encourage people to speak what they have to speak.
And it seems like they do that. Whatever you're showing them, either by role modeling the way or by your lessons to them. It seems like they're capturing it. You've created a culture of speaking up in your team.
Absolutely. I always tell them, be respectable in your tone, right? You should speak when you have a point which is a solid one, right? So definitely make sure you are respectable in your tone, but don't hold back on your opinions. Don't ever feel like, basically, I believe in creating a psychological safety net for them, right? And so they go in with the same spirit when they approach the other team members. And especially on those joint projects, that's when people kind of provide a feedback. Hey, why is this person asking questions again? And things like that, right?
Yeah, no, that absolutely. And I realize we're getting close to the end of our time here. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, one thing I truly believe in, and I would love to pass it on to your audience, is that, just believe in yourself. Don't ever have any self-doubt. And at one point of time, I think I read a book by this author called by Robin Sharma. I don't recollect the book name, but it essentially talks about, like how do you build self-worth? And the way to build self-worth is to really voice out what matters to you, what's important to you, right? And if you don't build that self-worth, or basically you need to have a stronger relationship with yourself and value yourself, that once you start doing that, that's when the people around you will start valuing you as well.
Yeah, and it seems like you have a lot of confidence in yourself and conviction in what you say. I don't know if it's always like that, but it's definitely.
Yes, pretty much. And I think that is one thing I definitely want to pass on to my daughter. If anything she should learn from me, it should be about, just be confident about yourself, right? No matter what you do.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and both, personal and work and how they intermingle. That's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Vishwa shared a lot of really good stories and insights with those stories in this interview. Think of it. She is a new mom, right? She was a new mom and dealing with all the things that came with that. So she shared two mom stories, essentially, where she was offered a big opportunity and promotion right during COVID, when she actually did not want to, she wasn't sure about herself and if she was willing to take on some massive project when, her baby was so young and she would need to travel a lot. But not only that, she was able then to also make a request to continue to work from home a little bit longer because of her baby. Her concerns that her baby was going to potentially get COVID. I think this is wonderful. So she did not limit herself. She was able to, yes, embrace the big opportunities, but also at the same time, right, instead of thinking, oh, I can't do it because I have a baby, she thought, you know what, I need to ask them to be able to work from home a little bit longer here. And she already had established her value in her work ethics with her boss and with her company. So she asked and she got what she wanted. That's something that you can consider as well. Instead of telling yourself the story that, oh, maybe I shouldn't, ask for this because I have this limitation, think about what you can ask for that will allow you to overcome that limitation. And that's an important strategy. She also saw in a female role model, a lot of inspiration in terms of being more assertive. And I also find it really cool that whenever people say that she's very, aggressive or assertive, she actually takes it as a compliment. When people say that her team is a little bit combative, she takes it as a compliment because that is exactly what she wants to achieve. And it's worked for her. It's worked for her team. And she is proud and happy to continue doing that, not holding back. I also found really insightful that and I thought this was good for a lot of people to hear, and especially women, when she went out to network, and there's a lot of guys around, and people did not pay attention to her, they did not listen to her, they basically dismissed her by saying, oh, this is complicated, this is not for you, either at the lumber store or in her corporate networking events. She was able to turn that around by saying the right things, by just continuing the conversation. And I think this is genius because I often found, even during my career, that when people didn't pay attention to me Sometimes I'd back away. Most of the times I would feel compelled to back away and not do what she did. You can have a completely different outcome when you persevere with that conversation. And that's what I've been doing a lot more, which is if someone seems like they're not interested in what I have to say or having a conversation with me, instead of taking that as a sign of, let me pull back, I lean in and make it happen. I'm like, you're not interested in what I'm going to say, but I'm going to have a conversation. You're going to listen to me anyways. And it's what she did. She just kept having the conversation and she turned the situation around. And the executive then even invited her to meet his team during a team lunch. She turned it around. And it doesn't take that much. You just have to get yourself the space and the time that you need to show others that whatever bias they had of you, whatever they were thinking about, that, oh, maybe it's not worth talking to you, that you have enough time and space to prove them wrong. And force it. Yeah, force it. It's not, you just sometimes have to keep talking. It'll be harder for them to ignore you if you keep talking. That's one of the things that I say. If someone interrupts you, every time someone interrupts you when you're speaking, you stop what you're saying and let the other person talk. How is that going to come across, right? Finish your thought, right? They have to wait before they speak. Continue to say what you are saying. Finish your thought before allowing other people to talk. Otherwise, you're going to always keep talking over you. And I also thought it was quite interesting when she said that women are partly at fault with the gender parity issue because they're not negotiating strongly enough for themselves because they worry too much. And another thing that she mentioned was when she faced backlash, she chose to ignore it. How important is that? When sometimes you have the choice of how you're going to respond. This is very much what she talks about a lot. She chooses to see certain comments that her team is too confrontational or that she's too aggressive as a compliment. She chooses to push through if people ignore her. She chooses to ignore backlash or people that try to put her down. Those are choices. They're very important choices. She persists respectfully and is trying to show who she is and be authentic and be her. And not only that, when it came to moving up, she looked for opportunities, and even if she wasn't ready, she didn't have the experience, she still expressed her interest and sold herself, whatever she had, right? So you have to use what you have, whatever that is. And I know it's hard to say, oh, just be confident in yourself, but speak up even if you're not confident in yourself, and it'll come. Don't, like she says, don't be afraid to be yourself, because that's really going to help you. And one last thing that she said was really, really good, and I immediately related to that, was that when junior women came to ask her for advice, she thought that they wasted a lot of time worrying if they were going to be judged or what people would think of them as being selfish or whatever, if they asked for what they wanted, for the promotion, for the opportunity. Waste a lot of time worrying. And that's exactly how I feel when it comes to worrying about other people and ruminating and overthinking. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of energy. And that's super precious. That's the most precious asset that you have, is your time and your energy. Why are you going to waste it on unproductive worry? That is not a good use of your time. And I thought that was genius. So think about, from everything that she said, what are the things that you want to change right now? What's one thing that you can change, that you can choose to see differently, that you can choose to respond differently to, starting tomorrow or starting right now? That's my challenge for you, my friend. And if you like this episode, please give it a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be super helpful and greatly appreciated. And sign up, subscribe for the podcast so you stay on top and and also come to my newsletter, because in the newsletter, I'll actually break down the key lessons from the podcast as well. So not only are you going to listen to it, but you actually have a summary of the key points so that you can keep those and really retain that learning and that knowledge. I hope you enjoyed this. I found it exceptional. I think Vishwaa brought a lot of gold into this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. It's been an absolute honor to serve you today, and remind you that you can check out the show notes for this episode on my blog at assertiveway.com/blog. And do you want to go deeper on how you can speak your mind with confidence at work, unapologetically? Then go watch one of my several free trainings at assertiveway.com/free. Because in those trainings, you're going to learn the skills that you need to speak up with confidence and without being rude. Like how to say no, how to express your ideas in meetings, how to express how you feel, how to ask for what you want, ask for that promotion that's due, deal with difficult people, difficult conversations, handle criticism, give thoughtful, constructive criticism to your team members or others, to self-promote without bragging, and much, much more. So these are the kind of skills that your parents, your teachers, your bosses may not have taught you, but that are going to make all the difference in the world in your career, in your relationships, and in your happiness. Trust me. So thank you once more, and go ahead and enjoy the day. Have a delightful, wonderful week.